All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with Bo Polny once again. And look, there's no avoiding this. We all see where the country is headed. We're seeing the chaos. We're seeing the protests. These are only going to pick up. The violence is going to pick up. It's all going to escalate, folks. We all know this. We've been told this for a very long time from a lot of my guests, Bo Polny, 𝗬𝗏 𝗠𝗲, The Ghost. So many of my guests have said, this is coming for the last 5 years. It really looks now like we're in it. Silver is going through the roof. Bo Polny has warned about this for a very long time. So with that being said, Bo, thank you so much for joining me. There's a lot to discuss here. I mean, it's just like we're really in the trenches now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, for those who say nothing's happening, okay, well, we see a lot of evil happening, okay? But on the good side, there's one thing that's happening that is crystal clear that is showing that the globalists are losing control. And you mentioned it, silver. The fact that silver right now is through $50, and it's so far, it's literally at 94 as we speak. It is showing all your viewers that we are in a historic moment right now. And yes, we haven't seen evil being like squashed yet, but it is game on and it's happening right in front of us.
All right, folks, get your red light therapy. Get your red light therapy. Are you seeing more friends and family diagnosed with cancer? I sure am. Or has it happened to you? Turbo cancer is now a global crisis. No doubt about it. We're all seeing it. But there's hope. Thousands of clinical studies show therapies do work. One PubMed study found that a 660 nanometer wavelength reduced breast cancer growth by 40% in just 24 hours. Another on prostate saw 49% remission in over 400 participants. A lymphoma pilot study, all 3 patients came back cancer-free. Want to learn more? Investigative medical journalist and I can call him a scientist, Jonathan Otto, reveals how red light therapy with proven wavelengths can help the cancer, tinnitus, weight loss, wrinkles, dementia, anxiety, autoimmune diseases, and more, much more. You can even try. I even say it helps with the depression. You can even try a red light therapy device risk-free with a 60-day money-back guarantee, 3-year warranty, and flexible financing. Visit myredlight.com to watch the free training and claim limited time bonuses. Use coupon code DAVID for an extra 10% off. That's myredlight.com and use code DAVID. All right, Bo, let's get into this. This is people can see it. It's getting wacky. It's getting crazy. Look what's happening in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's rumors of Trump saying that he's going to sign the Insurrection Act or invoke the Insurrection Act. But I don't think that's going to happen just yet, in my opinion, because I feel like this still needs to boil over and get worse in order for him to do a clean sweep and bring the military in. It's got to get just right.
Yeah. And so we'll go through some time windows here. There's some time points that I think the viewers will be very interested in. We're going to talk about, and like everything you're mentioning right now, again, if you watch the political realm, okay, you're going to feel like, man, this is just so much chaos going on. But understand, superseding, I've said it before, I'll say it again, superseding all of this is biblical prophecy. We're living in biblical times. Like, Nino, when I grew up, we didn't see this kind of stuff, okay? It was just like, pretty civilized, normal world. Remember growing up as a kid, like, yeah, there's, a few events here and there, but man, every day is like biblical nowadays that's going on. You got to admit, this is a wild time we're living in, and it kind of really sucks just to turn on the news even sometimes. Like, what are your thoughts, Nino?
Yeah, no, 100%. But I've been ready for this. For me, I've been prepared for this. I knew this was coming since really after 9/11. I knew they weren't going to just stop there, right? It's not like, oh, we just accomplished 9/11, we're done now. No, they're moving full speed ahead with their agenda. So I did myself a service and woke up and studied the globalist agenda for a very long time, and now we're here. We're in the time now where it's the fruition of their deeds. So now they're going to make the big moves. Trump's going to hopefully counter those moves. And I'm just ready. I mean, this is biblical.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought up 9/11 because, to be honest with you, that's when really my journey began here. Truly, if you go back to 9/11, before that time point, you can go to the airports, you can have your family walk up to the gate with you. Like, it was just like a pretty normal, civilized world. And boom, 9/11 hit. And then everything in our lives changed. Okay. And so the point of that conversation is, from that, everybody who was alive then, right, can go back and know where they were at that 9/11 event, right? And then everything from that point on changed. You're right. That is the mark. And for me, that's when I truly started to wake up, because then I started to realize, like, there's a 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗹 prophecy literally about the two brothers of York, and they fell, right? Like, what? Like, someone hundreds of years ago was prophesying about the two brothers of York that will be, And so what I came to realize is, as the future's written, and you gotta, and so if that's true, then the Bible would be true, because the Bible says that we win, that the church wins. And so what I came to realize in all of this, is the future is written. And then through all these journeys now, since 9/11, I've come to realize that also time is written. Okay.
We're also seeing the beginnings, happening in Minneapolis. What's gonna happen all over the country, because now you have leftists, radicals, walking into churches, and screaming at the pastor. I mean, interrupting church service, like, no shame at all. No, they have no shame in their game at all. They're just going in there, just bombarding the churches. It's sickening to watch this.
Okay, so that's why, again, you can watch all this, and yes, I had to go watch some of these things too, because I kind of want to know what's going on in the world. But at the same time too, I still sit back and I do the biblical calculations, and I'm realizing all of this is actually very interesting. And like you bring up Minneapolis, so I'm going to touch base on that in just a minute, okay? But Minneapolis, understand, this is wild. The events of Minneapolis happened exactly on biblical time points. That's the crazy part. Okay. So I'm going to go through this just a second, but a good thing, to understand about maybe this video would be the idea of darkness. And what are we all looking for? The light. We're looking for moving from dark to light. And truly, actually, I'm going to show some calculations that are screaming. All of this is going down right now. Okay. And as the light is as the good things are coming upon the world, what's the only thing the devil can do, what the evil side can do? What they're doing, freaking out, running into churches, screaming, causing pandemonium, chaos. That's all they can do, right? So let's look at some mathematics behind all of this. And the mathematics, I'm telling you, these are biblical mathematics that you're going to see in a second. You're like, what? How is this happening? So I want to show you from the darkest time point in the world, okay, that we've seen. The darkest moment in time was called the winter crux, okay? So that's the darkest point. And then the first day of light began on Christmas Day. Every day started getting brighter. If you want, people, please go back to our Nino's and I prior video, and we talked more in detail about this, okay? But I'm going to use this as a starting point of why the winter crux, and now as we head into June, is so critical. And we're going to see a full-on 180 by the time we hit June, okay? And so let me show. Now, we want to also understand the number 421, very important number, biblical math, 421, okay? And we know this because Nino and I did a show, in March? Remember that, Nino?
Yep.
And what happened, right? I said, hey, watch April 21, 421. What happened? Pope's dead, right? Klaus Schwab resigns. Both at 88. Okay. The point is, if this wasn't biblical, he could have died on any day, but he didn't. The Pope, meaning the head of religion. Okay. Jesus Christ wasn't religious. He was the king of his kingdom. Okay. Man makes religion to control man. 421's critical time point. Now I want to show this tying in with the menorah, because if you scan this QR code, I'm not going to do it right now, but this video that this QR code ties into is 44 million views on this video.
Jeez.
And it clearly shows
44 million, Bo? Jeez.
44 million views on this video. It's a It's the simplest math problem that the greatest mathematicians of the world have never been able to solve, and it's simply 3x plus 1. The point is, this calculation lines into a 4-2-1 loop, okay? So we've talked about this before, but I'm just giving the understanding of 4-2-1. So 3x will be the Trinity times x, anything the devil throws at God, plus 1 will always end up in a 4-2-1 loop. So since Christ on the earth, 2,000 years have gone by, the devil's thrown everything to try to change the outcome, and the equation says it all comes down to a 4-2-1 loop ending in 1. Why I'm saying this is because the menorah ties in with this. This is the menorah. The last day of the menorah last year was December 21. And then we stepped into the darkest time of the year. Okay. December 21. Okay. So if this is important, we should have seen something happen or a calculation on that day. You want the calculations for that day? December 21. This is radically awesome. From December 21, 2025, if you count backwards, 77 years, 7 months, and 7 days, Israel declares itself a state. To the exact day.
That's insane. How 77 years? Say that again. 77 years.
77 years, 7 months, and 7 days. Israel declares itself a state to the exact date. Okay, now let's confirm that this is an important date. Okay, if you go back 77 years, 7 months, 707 days, Trump is born.
Jeez, that's insane, man. I mean, you can't deny it, Then, if you go back 3,330 days, Trump wins the election to the exact day. That's all synchronicities, codes. I don't know.
Like this, it's just synchronicity, meaning God designed it, and He's showing Himself. And then, so if you go 3,333 days, you got Christmas Eve. The next day is Christmas Day. Okay, so Christmas Day, the 25th of December. Now, let's just kind of really quickly fast forward here to why this 4th of July is so important. Because if you go from this Christmas Day, 5 months, 5 weeks, and 5 days to the exact day. 5 months, 5 weeks, 5 days, 4th of July. America's 250th birthday.
Yeah, that's... I don't know how to... Obviously, there's something to this. I'm not denying that there's not. There's obviously something to all of this. And it's like you're breaking the code.
Right. That's, again, so God shows me how to do the math. And so why I'm showing this is because, we can read scriptures and know that, we win. So we know what's coming if you read scriptures. Christ does not return until all the scriptures of Revelation are fulfilled. Okay, period. Number 2 is there's so many, we've talked about the Torah codes. We did a podcast 2 years ago on that, the Torah codes, right? They run computer programs on Torah codes, and you can break down the Bible that way as well, too. And David actually is prophesied in the Torah codes. Okay, so king, which would be Trump. So there's so many ways to look at the Bible, and I look at the Bible from the mathematics, like the 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so heck, let's get into the 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, because this is what's happening now. I want to start what this is going to be a great flood. Did God promise He would never flood the earth again? At the end of the great flood, there was a rainbow, and that was the promise. This time around, God's not going to flood the earth with water. He's going to flood the earth with fire, the fire of the Holy Spirit. So this is going to lead into what's called the greatest revival in human history. Okay, so now I want to show you, because I know you've seen some of these videos. We've talked about this as well too. This is the Noah cycle. I'm going to tie this cycle into 2026, okay? So let's all pay really close attention. Okay, so on Genesis 7:1, God instructs Noah to enter the ark. He's on the ark for 7 days, and on the 7th day, the rain starts pouring down. The ground breaks open. Water shoots up from the deep. God slams the door closed on Noah's ark, and it's game on. Meaning that God starts destroying the Nephilim spirits, starts destroying the Nephilim bodies, the physical bodies on the earth, and all evil on the earth. Okay, so now it rained for this is why you understand it. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The rain stops. It rains for another 110 days for a total of 150.
Okay.
And that's Genesis 7:24. Now, let's apply this to 2020, Nino. We saw this cycle happen, okay? Let's go through the cycle. On April 21. Remember we said 5 years backwards from the death of the Pope, oil went to negative $38 a barrel. This is a factual statement. It's stupid because it makes no sense. How can oil, which backs the petrodollar at the time, go to negative? They're going to pay you $38 to take a barrel. It made no sense. On that day, I was so clear. I was so clear. I will hear it at nighttime. Start counting Noah cycle. Okay, so 40 days and 40 nights, Nino. You know what happened?
What?
George riots. George killed that night. Paris is rioting, Brazil, and all the world goes into riots. On 40 days and peace, and then you had the Russia-Ukraine war. You had all these wars start to happen. Peace was taken from the earth. Why is this important? Because it rained for another, the water kept rising for another 110 days, which took us to September 18th, 2020.
My birthday.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg dead.
Yeah, but also my birthday.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. You see, Nino, God appointed you, and your birthday, you were born for such a time as this. But the point I'm making is September 18th ended up being a very important day because Ginsburg died. And remember, God was not with America since 1970 when we enacted Roe v. Wade as a nation. I got to repeat this because this is so important. Once Ginsburg's dead, she was a deciding vote. Then Amy came in within 2 years and as a 2 year or 21 months, whatever it was, 2 years and 20 days or something like that. What ended up happening was Roe v. Wade's overturned. And because Roe v. Wade's overturned, this is where scripture comes in. If God is with us, who can stand against us? Okay, so now God is with us. But yet, we just started off this podcast. The chaos is going off in Minneapolis and this crazy, it's just, we're still seeing wars. The wars aren't come to an end yet. So we're seeing all this chaos. And so when is God going to move? Because God is now allegedly with us because we overturned Roe v. Wade. You get what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's apply this cycle to 2026. Okay, so here it is. So what we end up seeing here is if we look at the cycle, like before I want to backtrack here, from this date here, I want to show you, it's actually numerics. So December 21, if you add 7 days, you got to add 3 sevens. It's a trinity, 777. Okay. So 7 days takes you to December 31. 7 more days takes you to January 7th, which means something should have happened on January 7th. And then the third 7 is January 14th. Okay, so write down so 777, January 7th and January 14th should have been markers for time. Holy mackerel, check this out, okay? So guess what day Renee Nicole Good was shot by the ICE officer when she tried to come over? The 7th of January.
That's my niece's birthday too.
Okay, hey, man,
crazy.
You're falling into prophecy. Your family is, and so now so the fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE.
And what a name, right? Like the name is so
good.
perfect.
Yeah, so like she's good.
I mean, you couldn't write this, man.
Yeah, she could have been called evil, but they called her good, right? It's just like the Patriot.
I don't, of course her name is Renee Nicole Good.
Good, right. Just like the 9/11, the 9/11, the Patriot Act. Nothing patriot about it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying you can't write this stuff. It's just crazy.
Well, yeah, I love how the pieces fit. Okay, so this is the 7. So now this is the day that Noah would get onto the ark, and then he's in the ark for 7 days. Then God slams the door on the 7th day. Okay, when did the rioting begin in Minneapolis?
Not sure what, the 10th or I don't know.
The 14th at nighttime. The 14th is so in other words, the turning point for the intense Minneapolis riots was January 14th. The second ICE agent, he ends up shooting Venezuela national, some 𝗀𝗂𝗍𝗳 guy. And then that's also the day that Clinton refused to show up, for the Senate hearing.
Big.
Yeah, so that was the 14th. So the 14th ends up, this starts the riots on the 14th, just like we go back 5 years, tied in with the cycle and the start of the riots. Exact days, exact cycle of time. Okay, so now what we're in right now is the death cycle. Now, also, I want to point out something very important because we've talked about this, but this is important to understand. Okay, everybody, we've talked about calendars. Understand, we've been lied to. Okay, because we've said this before, but on October 1582, you went to bed on the 5th, woke up on the 14th. The Pope removed 10 days from the calendar. Okay. And so this was done, God said, through political reasons. But the point is, now we're in the Gregorian calendar, which is not this is like a 400-year-old calendar relative to the Julian, which was used, which is over 2,060 years old. So in other words, I just want the viewers to understand we're 13 days behind right now relative to the true calendar that goes back over 2,000 years. So why I'm saying that is, please listen closely, because the 14th is actually New Year's Day.
Okay.
So we've got New Year's Day. So very interesting. So on the Gregorian, so on the Julian calendar, we got a starting point, New Year's Day, riots begin, and this is now critical. We're in a 40 or a 50-day countdown. Okay, very important. So this is now, we've stepped into the death cycle. So you know how we've talked about an angel of death moment, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so God's not going to reveal when He's going to do this. But if we have to understand, like, you can say, well, it hasn't happened. I don't care. People can shout from the rooftops false prophecy. My God doesn't lie. Julie Green, Kent Christmas, Robin Bullock, Carolyn Guinness, Diane Larkin, 5 people, 5 witnesses to the fact an angel of death moment is going to strike the earth. Okay. And so the calculations are indicating this angel of death moment could very likely occur anytime in the next 40 days. And why? You'll see why in a minute, because if we have a God moment between now and the 4th of July, this then allows for us to have the greatest 4th of July celebration in human history. But please, people, we all got to be on the same page with this one. If we don't get an act of God, Trump is now in today is the 20th. Today is 1 year since his inauguration.
Damn,
and there's
it's already been a year. It's already a year. Look how fast this is flying.
And look at, they're still attacking him.
I've always said 2026 has got to be the year for big moves. It's got to be.
Thank you. I just want the viewers to all be in agreement on this, because we're the point that you have a great audience, okay, and understand that they're awake to what's going on. But understand, look at Trump. Look at you can do a sheet 10 pages long right now on things that Trump has done, and another 10 pages on who's attacking him still. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
it's just like, and the point is, like I've said, it's going to take him 100 years to fix this problem. Unless
at some point the Band-Aid has got to be ripped off. It's just we've got to go for it. It's got to happen, like I would say, this year. It's got to be.
Absolutely. And then I want to touch base on a prophecy that just came out yesterday by Julie Green. And this has got everybody up in an uproar right now. Okay. And we'll tap into this and how this plays in and with the presidency, because this is pretty crazy. This is a prophecy about a wolf that's in the White House.
Okay.
Think about that for a minute.
Wolf in the that would be okay. Surrounding. Trump? Surrounding.
Yeah. So have a listen, and I'm going to give you my understanding of this relative to prophecy and timelines. But pop this screen up and let's have a listen to this, because I'm telling you, a lot of people on the inside are listening to these prophecies and these prophets, and this one shook everybody up.
Okay, let's hear it.
It is time for you to know who the great white wolf really is. It is time to expose, and it's time to stand and pray against him, and who he is working with, and what his assignments are to do against this country and against the president. Because so many people are living by sight and not living by faith. J.D. Vance is a great white wolf. The deep state put him next to President Trump because the plan was for President Trump not to make his full second term. And when he didn't, they would have their guy to take his place. He's not a friend of my David's. He is being used to spy and to sabotage the president, deceive him in every way possible. J.D. Vance's ties to this swamp will soon be revealed, and so will many next to your president. My children, your president's inner circle and people in high positions of your government must be exposed and revealed as treasonous traitors. Not all these attacks you can see, but soon everything that is hidden will be made known. The great white wolf and all of his pack must be removed to truly save this nation. The secret societies own and control most in your government, and ones you think are MAGA are not. It's time for their masks to be ripped off. It's time for this nation and the world to know who the traitors are. The architects in this nation, which are the secret societies, their money trails will lead right to politicians who have sold their soul to the enemy.
I've been saying I don't trust J.D. Vance. I've looked at a lot of his rhetoric before he was introduced to Trump or as a vice president, slamming Trump. I mean, if you're not awake then, you're not awake now. And I do feel like his whole relationship with TPUSA, the whole thing to me stinks to high heaven. I'm not with it personally. I still have not bought into J.D. Vance. I think a lot of people are 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm still kind of like that, but I don't trust him, Bo. And that's just my opinion.
Well, again, I just,
that's my instincts, man. And I go with that, my gut.
Well, I created that video this morning and I attached him, hugging Erica and all stuff, come on. That's a little creepy.
And the fact that he's so willing to take the stage at TPUSA with everything that happened, I just don't. And they're hugging like they've been friends forever. And it was a very, what I would consider disrespectful to his wife, disrespectful to Kirk, wearing black leather pants. I mean, come on, you got to have some kind of spiritual discernment. And I think that's what this is. And I see me personally, I see right through this. And like I said, it's my opinion. I may have people on here that like TPUSA and are all for it. That's your prerogative. But I don't feel right about J.D. Vance. I just don't.
Well, and see again, so and then the internet lit up. Remember with Charlie Kirk's assassination, we all remember that, right? And literally, was it like a month later? She's on, the stage. It's just the publicity they gave her, which is wild. And then the other part that really concerns me is they all the time started taking the 𝗬𝗂𝗶𝗹 prophecy and saying that she's the Esther. Okay,
I understand that.
Right, and a lot of people did. They all jumped in. Oh, she got pretty eyes.
You were kind of on that bandwagon for a while, weren't you?
Never. No, never. I was the one that actually would jump on with you, the podcast, and I said, no way. And I go back to our last podcast. I said the reason being is because of the prophecy. See, to me, it's the prophecy and its precise wording. And this is what I said on your last podcast, that the Esther will arise, and this ties into our podcast we're doing today, with relation to understanding time. Okay, so I'm gonna in a few minutes we'll get back onto the time schedule of this, but Esther ties in with this, and it's not Erica, right? And because the Esther, can you hear me?
My bad. So Erica is not the Esther.
Absolutely, based on prophecy. This is how the prophecy goes. Okay, we can all listen to the prophecy together. It went like this. It goes, an Esther will arise in the middle of the presidency. So the middle of the presidency would be second term, which would be a year from now, January of next year. Okay.
Is Esther going to be a widow?
And then Esther, furthermore, she will arise to heal a nation. Okay. Right now, Nino, we started off with what's going on in Minneapolis and else. Okay, there's one simple question. Does America need to be healed right now? Or
no, it's just beginning.
Okay, no. Or let me ask another question would be, if we don't need to be healed, does America not need God's vengeance for God to intervene? Right?
Yes, but for America to be healed, that sends me into thoughts of a traumatic event happening in America where America needs to be healed.
Vengeance.
Yeah,
Vengeance.
and then so a woman arises at that time
to heal a nation. Okay, so let's go through the prophecy here. Okay, so what I'm saying is, and this ties in beautifully with what's going on, because remember, when the Noah Ark event occurred, when Noah got off the ark, he stepped into a new world, which means that God destroyed the old world. Are you with me, everybody? Please listen. So you got to have destruction. So if you get destruction, a biblical proportion, biblical destruction, then you need healing on the other side of it. Are you with me? So we don't need healing until next year. Understand the
Okay,
time.
so you're saying this stuff, but you've been saying that the great and terrible day was going to happen in September,
Yes.
October, November, but it hasn't happened yet.
No, because the God is but I've also said every one of those podcasts, God's not going to reveal it. If God told me the day and I put it on your show, the day God's going to strike, evil is going to do everything in its power to not let that day happen.
I'm not. That's why it's hard to predict this stuff. But I'm not saying that you're not right. You've been right about a lot of stuff. You've been in the zone, dude. Like for sure, you're in the zone.
Well, right now we're totally in the zone. Nino, look at silver, okay? All I know,
you are on record coming on my podcast talking about silver
when it was at $20, $20.
I give you all the credit in the world. That's why I know you're onto something here. I know you're onto something here, and that's why my audience loves listening to you. I love listening.
And all I know, okay, so let me just give you Isaiah 61, okay? Forget about my opinion, and let's just read scripture. Isaiah 61, the year of the Lord's favor. So I've said the great and terrible day is going to happen. And I've said it already since when? Since the 4th of July of that last year. I said, look to September onwards for a great and terrible day. But the year doesn't end until the 4th of July, 2026. This year. Okay. So there's the year of the Lord's favor, Isaiah 61. This is actual scripture, okay? So again, pop this on the screen. You know, I'm going to give your viewers Isaiah 61, and it says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to bring the good news to the poor." That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing good news to the poor. He has sent to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that the captives will be released and the prisoners will be freed. We're in captivity, okay? To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. I'm telling you, the year of the Lord's favor started on the 4th of July, 2025, last year, and it will not end until the 4th of July, 2026. But it continues on. It goes to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God. Okay, so I'm not wrong until we go past the 4th of July, 2026, if God doesn't intervene and kick the bejesus out of this evil empire on the world right now, okay? So something is expected to go down. We don't know the day it's going to go down, okay? And God, we can try to calculate, but we really don't know, because if God revealed it to anybody, it's like, think of it this way. I've said it before. If God revealed to Moses, and He told Moses and everybody, many people there, or even Moses, that He's going to part that Red Sea, and then when Pharaoh's inside the Red Sea, hey, Moses, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to close it on Pharaoh and his entire army. Do you think Pharaoh would have gone in for the greatest trap in history? No, he wouldn't have gone in. And so this is a 2,000-year setup for the greatest trap in history, which is expected to be sprung anytime now and before the 4th of July, 2026, okay? And there's a time window of this next, say, 40 days, 50 days that we could see this right here. Like it could be right in front of us. There's another scripture I want to give everybody here as well, too, and this is another scripture of Malachi 5:11 through 15. It says, when there will be no more wars, this is a time when the day is coming when there will be no more wars, none. I will slaughter your war horses and demolish your chariots. I will dismantle military posts and level your fortifications. I will abolish your religious black markets, your underground traffic in the world of black magic. I will smash your carved and your cast gods and cast them down. No more taking control of the world, worshiping what you want to do. I will root out and your sacred sects, power centers, and destroy the God defiance. In a raging anger, I will make a clean sweep of godless nations who haven't listened. Okay, so this is a one-day moment where God is going to move upon the world. It's also written in Malachi 5. I'm just showing you that we're looking for a moment where God simply intervenes upon the world to change the course of things. And so let's go back to the mathematics of this, because again, this is important because there's got to be math tied behind this. Okay, so we're in a 40-day window right now, which literally started on the January 14th with the Minneapolis riots, or January 1 on the Julian calendar. So we're in the death zone right now. Don't be surprised that in the next 40 days between now and February 24th, we see an angel of death moment. We could actually see it go down. Will it? Again, we're watching together. I find this coming weekend, the 24th of January. Remember what day?
Is that, so that's what's going to happen on the 24th of January.
Okay, so let's do the opposite of this. Okay, so when did the Pope die? April 21, 421. So that will be the death cycle.
Okay.
When is birth? 9 months later. Oh, exactly this weekend. 9 months specifically would actually, the exact day would be tomorrow, the 21st. And then 9 months and 3 days is this Saturday, 124. So why I say that is because
what can we expect Saturday?
Well, here, this is interesting. Somebody sent this to me. This is kind of crazy. There is a Torah reading. You know, how could this, like, I don't know what to tell you with this. This is just weird, okay? So there's a Torah reading called 𝗂𝗏 𝗏.
Okay.
𝗂𝗏 𝗏. This is great. I don't know what to tell you, okay? It's just go with me on this one because I'm not making this up. This is wild. So 𝗂𝗏 𝗏 officially commences Israel's physical exit. Okay, so we're seeing silver right now at $94. Expected to
94. It's insane.
Yeah, expected to blow through $100 any minute now, and then my next target's 140, and then after that it's going to go to $200. Okay, and then it's going to go higher and higher and higher. Okay, so in other words, if this is happening, Babylon's fallen. Okay, there's a time window in March. I'm going to go through in a second here. I'm going to give it to viewers. That's going to be historic for the silver move. Okay, and it's coming in March. It's going to be accelerating until then, but then it's going to get even more wild in March. Okay, so this is 𝗂𝗏 𝗏. It states 𝗂𝗏 𝗏 officially commences Israel's physical exit from Egypt after the 10th plague. Okay, so the physical exit means they're leaving Egypt with what? The gold and silver. Okay, and what are the final 3 plagues? Well, the locusts was 8. 9 was 3 days of darkness. So are we going to have 3 days of darkness here imminently? We could. Okay, because it says when this event goes down, they're going to shut down all the markets like they did with 9/11. There's going to be the dark. Remember,
this is coming. This is coming.
We're not going to see darkness, so people don't freak out. We're not going to see dark.
I believe this totally. I totally know this is coming. This is going to be the Black Swan event, the big event.
Yes, thank you. Right. So what Nino's describing is the Black Swan event, which
I just don't know when.
Right, and so the calculations are indicating anywhere in the next 40 days. And this, I'm just saying this weekend is rather interesting because it's 9 months from the death of the Pope, which is I kind of find wild. How is this happening? And then furthermore, this actually 𝗂𝗏 𝗏, this Torah reading is about the angel of death, Nino. It literally references the angel of death, and it talks about the death angel of the firstborn leading to the expulsion of Israel. This literally talks, and its reading for 𝗂𝗏 𝗏 is this Saturday, Sabbath, the 24th of January.
So something big is what you're saying is going to happen 24th of January. But
I don't know. I said the thing is, I don't know, but I'm showing you how is this.
I don't know
Because to me this is because we're all
is based on this. So you got to
because we're all waiting for this together, you know. So like nobody's saying like I do know that God's going to intervene and strike the earth between now and the 4th of July. And I do believe it's between now and March. Okay. So I think it's imminently. And I find it freaky that it's 9 months from the death of the Pope. I find it freaky that this Torah reading is this Saturday, which happens to be the start of the life cycle 1, 2, 4. And then this is crazy because if you continue this from this January 24th, it goes to March 19th. I'll tell you why that's important in a minute.
Well, hold on.
19th. Go ahead.
I've had guests come on my show, Stuart Swerdlow being one of them. I think he's like 2-1 in his predictions, right? But he says March, it will be unrecognizable. Unrecognizable.
And here's your time window from March 3rd to 19th. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying my March, he says it's, I don't know. I'm just putting it together. Just putting it together with what you said and what he said. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm showing, and this is biblical. This is not my opinion. I'm literally taking biblical time points and applying them to 2026. And so what I'm saying is this 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗹 specifically references it. It offers timely reflection on redemption, freedom, and the foundation of the Jewish calendar to establish a calendar based on the monthly rebirth of the moon, with Nisan as the first month, written in Exodus 12:2. So Nisan 1 is day 1. Everybody, please listen. Nisan 1 is the first day of the new year on the God. Please don't argue with this fact. This is literally the Torah, okay? The Hebrew calendar. So there's several calendars, but it's called the ecclesiastical new year. Nisan 1 this year is March 19th, which means that, well, I would assume, let's leave a bit better. I would assume that as of March 19th, we start a new year. Well, if it's a new year, I would assume that God would have moved and we would likely have seen something historic happen by the 19th because we're in a new beginning, a new year. And so anytime between now and then, all of this is indicating, and this is the crazy part, between January 24th, 124, this Saturday, and March 19th, it's 1 month, 24 days. There's your 124 again, which is just interesting how the math of this is all coming together. So what I'm trying to say is there's a time point coming in right here, which is we're in the flood moment where God is wiping out evil on this earth. It's going to come down to a moment in time, a 24-hour window where everything suddenly happens, and it's indicating it's going to happen anywhere between January 14th and February 24th. And then we've got a week and a half or 10 days go by, and this one's interesting. Why I said March 3rd is important, because March 3rd, Nino, is Purim. You know that saying when people say you were born for such a time as this?
Yep.
That comes from the book of Esther. And the book of Esther specifically is what's called what happened with Esther set everything up. And then Haman ends up getting hung on his own gallows because he wanted to deceive the king. So it's interesting that this could tie in with that J.D. Vance thing we just played earlier.
Yeah. Wow.
Think about that. Okay, that's what I'm hearing right now. So J.D. Vance could be exposed like Haman, because Haman was.
So you think that's what this could relate to? J.D. Vance being exposed?
No, God did not tell me that. I'm hearing. I believe I'm hearing. I'm feeling it right now. That God is saying that this could actually relate to a Haman moment where we now know that I believe. Well, Julie Green's a prophet. She's a true prophet. I don't care what anybody says. Okay. And so the point I'm making here is that prophecy is true and would be fascinating because Haman was the right-hand man to the king. Think about that for a minute, right? And so could we truly see a Haman moment on, say, somewhere on or about March 3rd, because that then led to the hangman and all of his family. You know, he exposed, and all the Haman and all his family, all his sons, everything were hung on the gallows that they built to kill the king. And to kill all the Jews, right? So very interesting time point, because that comes into March 3rd. And then you've got another 2 weeks, which God showed me on the charts between March 3rd. So something happens right around March 3rd, because into the new year of the 19th, holy mackerel, forget about it. You want to talk about a biblical explosion on precious metals?
So can I just say this year is just going to be wild and crazy? It's not slowing down. We all see it. I feel like time and space is collapsing on itself. I feel like we're living in this bottleneck of novelty, of craziness. And no one can dismiss that. Everyone agrees. Everyone feels something. So I think you're right. I think you're in the sphere. I think this is all coming now. I don't see how anyone can deny that.
Because I agree with you. Let's agree. let's agree, like you said, this 2026 will be the year everything changes. Okay. And
I think in the next 3 months.
yeah, and you're right, because that's so. Let's put the slide back up, and I'm going to give it. So now let's give everybody a view of 2026. Here's 2026. This is the year. Let's have a year view of 2026. Okay, it started off on New Year's Day, Julian calendar, with a rioting in Minneapolis to the exact day. Okay, so this mirrors what happened in 2020. We're in a 40-day window right now into February 23rd, 24th, where the rain stops. Okay. And so now the rain stops, so the water keeps rising from the deep for 150 days. And that takes us to June 14th, of this year. Oh, what a coincidence. It's Trump's birthday to the exact day.
Jeez.
Okay, what I'm trying to show you is this is freaky. How is it from the Minneapolis riots, 150 days to the exact day is Trump's birthday? And he turns 80. He turns 80. So, and the scripture says a generation is 70, but 80 by strength. Okay, well, Trump got the strength. So this is that generation that's been prophesied about, 80 by strength. Okay, and then you understand also, let's talk about Trump for a second and then tie in J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance cannot, and we said on our last podcast, I'm going to say it again, he cannot and will not ever be president of the United States. Why? And no man aside from Trump will ever be president of the United States moving forward. Why? Because Trump, that name, whether it's Donald or his sons, the name Trump will be a trumpet to sound the trumpet for the returning of my son Jesus. That's prophecy.
Okay, and I also feel like I just feel like Trump is going to take these people down like the movie Godfather 3.
David Goliath.
You could say David as well, no doubt about it, biblically. But if people recently seen, Godfather 3. I just watched it again. I think that's how this all goes down. And Trump is always referring to the Godfather 3 with his music and the way he dresses sometimes. My audience can put it in the comments, but you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, and we're on the same page.
Yeah,
because
I'm
Trump is a Trump. Yeah, and let me take this even further. Let me take this further biblically. This is fun. This is awesome because Trump, like where he just invaded Venezuela, right? And there's gonna be more wars, short-term wars that he's gonna be involved in because Trump's the cleanup. Okay, he's working for God to clean up all this nuts that's going on in the world right now. But Trump has what on his hands, like King David did, blood. Okay. Trump has blood on his hands like King David. So why was King David not allowed to build the second temple? Why? Because he had blood on his hands. This is scripture, okay? God said to David that you will not build that second temple. It'll be your son. Solomon built the temple. Now this is critical. So in other words, one of his sons, and I believe it's going to be Eric, is going to be ultimately the type and shadow of King Solomon. Why? Very simple. Because in the reign of King Solomon, specifically, there was two things very important. There was finance like you can't even imagine. It was mind-blowing. There was so much money to build that temple. He had Solomon and the story of Solomon and his riches. He was so rich. It was probably the richest man ever existed. Okay. Solomon and his riches. And then during the time of Solomon, there were no wars. There were no wars. It was a complete time of peace. Okay. So this is really interesting how this is all coming together. So now let's finish on Trump. And so Trump, he turns 80 at 150 days, literally Genesis 7:24 from the 4th of January 14th. It's incredible. Now, this is the wild part. If you continue reading scriptures, the water kept rising. This is very important for 220 more days. And then they hit land, and at 220 days, the ark door opened. God instructed, and he stepped off the ark. So the total was 370 days. Okay, so please, everybody, let's listen closely here. So the cycle started on January 14th, 2026. If you add 370 days, you get to, here it is, January 20th, 2027. Nino, it's 1 year to the exact today. Trump will be exactly he'll be exactly in the middle of his presidency. So January 20th, 2027, 1 year from today, this podcast is January 20th, 2026. 1 year from today will be the next rainbow. And what happens is we step off of the ark into a new world, a new time point. And the next 2 years that follow are going to start off with an Esther moment, which is going to be a time of healing. And then the greatest time point in human history with free energy, anti-gravity, and like technology that's been hidden from us for generations. It's going to be the greatest time point ever in human history that we're about to step into. But it takes 1 year, starting January 14th of this year, last week, to January 20th, 2027 to step off that arc. And in the middle of that is the 4th of July. Okay, very important, because that is actually 5 years, 5 months, and 5 days from Christmas. So that goes from the darkest point of the world to the lightest point of the world, which means that this 4th of July, because it's the lightest, we're summertime, the sun, from dark to light, we step into the greatest light in human history. And it all starts this year. And that steps us into an incredible time point for the world. But all of this is it's a clock, as we're saying. It's
right. All right.
Time clock that, like you're saying, is 2026 is, and I agree with you, is that year where everything changes. But the next 40 to 50 days, okay, into the end of February is expected to be wild.
Okay.
The third could be very interesting on March. Purim. Does that tie in with JD Vance and Trump? Very much could. And then from the 3rd of March into the 18th, the new year start is going to be really spectacular for a complete and utter loss of control of the financial system. So silver, whatever price it's at, it's going to be exploding to levels that are going to be mind-blowing after Purim, okay? Which means that they totally lost control.
Got it. Wow. Bo, thank you so much for coming on today and delivering another epic podcast. I'm getting this up right now, so I was just working on the thumbnail. Let me get it up. So, JD Vance, folks, you decide. I agree with you, Bo. I'm on board with you, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Nino. God bless you, your family, your ministry, everything you're doing, because I know God is using you powerfully.
Thank you, Bo. Stay with me just for a second.